everybody, we just had an awesome test session with BrakeAce and I just wanted to share these results with you. So we were taking video the whole time and we have all the data and we have the data overlaid on video, and this is going to be really cool to show you how we use BrakeAce for someone to get faster. So we took out one of my longtime friends. He's an old school downhiller and he's pretty fit too, and he was really close to getting the KOM on one of these trails. So the trail's called Box of Birds and it's in Rotorua, and he was in the top 5 on Strava. So he really wanted to go there and get the KOM. He'd ridden this trail 58 times, which is a ton, and he pretty much thought he couldn't go any faster. So we took BrakeAce out, and on day 1, he got the new KOM. So this was before he actually looked at any of the data. And this made me a little bit nervous because the whole goal of BrakeAce was to look at his braking data from his first run and then use it to help him get faster. And I thought there's no way that we can make him get faster when he already has the KOM. But what we did is we looked at his key opportunities on the BrakeAce app, and then we went back the very next day to see if we can make him faster at all. So I had my fingers crossed the whole time that we were testing. He tried new lines on his key opportunities and he thought maybe that he could go a little bit faster, which had me pretty hopeful. So I followed him down on the run on the second day. I made one mistake and he was gone. So I actually wasn't sure how he was going, but I didn't see him again until the end. At the bottom, he told me that he had caught 2 people. Now I didn't see any of these people, so I figured he was going pretty quick, but also we weren't sure if he was able to go it faster at all because we didn't know how much time he lost when he was riding behind these other people. So it took us about 30 minutes to ride home, upload the data, and look at Strava. And to my surprise, to his surprise, to everyone's surprise, he got the new KOM, which was 5 seconds better than his last run the day before. So this was super cool for us because we were able to use the data to help him get faster, and he got the new KOM. So it was really cool for him, and ever since we did this test day, he's pretty much been on fire getting his new PBs on every track because he can see the patterns and see how he's braking, and he's been able to improve upon them. So he sent me a message and he said, I feel like I've been riding the way I was riding 4 or 5 years ago when I was flying downhill. So this particular rider was one of the top senior men downhill racers in New Zealand. He won a national round, and then he had a few injuries, broke his back and some other things like that, and he kind of hasn't been at the same place that he was riding before. So to be able to ride with this rider and watch him get faster, and to see him enjoying riding his bike more than he ever has before is just really awesome for me as a scientist and as his friend. So what I wanted to be able to do was look at his run from the first day and then compare it to the run in his second day. And I can show you how we practiced and how he tried new lines and how we were able to change his braking and how he was able to get faster and get the new KOM. So after looking at his data, we still think there's a little bit of time in there because he did catch people and we know he can go faster in a few places, but it's awesome to see how he improved. So let's just get into the data, have a look, and we'll talk about it there. All right, so here's Tyler's final run from the first day, and this is when he got the new KOM. So what we did is we selected the area of the ride that we wanted to analyze, and it's pretty close to the exact same map that we saw in Strava. So the time's really close. So what we can see, the first thing that we look at the time, we look at the distance and the elevation loss, but the most important thing that we're interested in when we're looking at BrakeAce is the flow score. And the flow score describes how efficient he was with his braking overall. So if we don't look at anything else, we always look at the flow score. So his flow score on the final run on the first day is 68. So we can see as we scroll across all of his braking, and it doesn't actually mean a ton when we just look at the braking trace, and that's where the algorithms that BrakeAce has become really, really important and makes all the braking make a lot of sense, and we can compare it between runs. So that's what the flow score does. We can compare his braking in this run to his braking in the next run. So 68 this time. You can see his modulation score and his intensity score are pretty low. That means that we have some improvement that we can make there. So we can scroll through every braking event and get a little bit more information. We can see that this one's a big one. The flow score is an 8, which means it was actually a big proportion of all the braking that he did in this entire run. So he's braking heavy, he was braking it was modulated, and it's braking for a really long time. This one was pretty important. So it was mostly on the rear brake, which is how he rode pretty much the whole time. And we can do that for every single brake event. So what BrakeAce does is it sorts through every single braking event and it looks at how they link together and says, actually, these places on the trail are where you can improve the most. So that's exactly what we did with Tyler. So we found these 3 places on the trail and we went there and we're like, hey, this is what BrakeAce thinks that you can improve the most. Let's go back there and try and fix them and try new lines. And that's exactly what he did. So this first one, we knew what was happening. He was going kind of across the road and then jumping over the log. So we tried new lines there, and he thought that actually he could definitely go faster there. This next one was a long straight bit, and he was braking, letting off a little bit, braking again, and then kind of sneaking through this log. And we knew that he could definitely go faster there. This final bit was a few switchbacks, and we knew that actually, like, they weren't huge. Not everyone was a huge braking event, but the way they linked together, they could be improved. And that's exactly what we tried to do. As we get a little bit into his, we can see he braked 47 times, and we weren't saying, hey, Tyler, brake 46 times and you're going to go faster. What we did is we picked through all the braking, which is exactly what BrakeAce does, is it scrolls through all the braking and says, these are the places where you can improve the most. So if we look at this map, we can see all the times that he brakes. But what we did is we took it a little bit further with BrakeAce, to show his key opportunities. So overall, his braking time was 1 minute and 10 seconds, and he braked 78 kilojoules, which is actually a lot. His rear brake got to 280 degrees, and that's definitely hot, and that's because he was using his rear brake for 79% of the energy. So 79% of his energy was in the rear brake, and that's why it was getting so hot. What BrakeAce also does is it can show where he's braking through the apex, and actually Tyler's braking at the apex was pretty good. And a lot of times riders will struggle with this, but what you'll see is in the second run, we changed this, and actually he was sliding a little bit through the turns, which was pretty cool. He had 2 brake checks, which is okay, but mostly what we focused on was his key opportunities. We wanted to make this really efficient. Here is Tyler's only full run from the second day. So remember, we went back on the second day and he sessioned those key opportunities, and then immediately after, he only had time for 1 run, and he made it count. So he actually went 5 seconds faster, based on BrakeAce, based on the video, and based on Strava. So we know he definitely went 5 seconds faster, and it was awesome. What you can see is actually, when you look at the flow score, is his flow score is better. So a lower flow score is better because braking is almost like penalty points. Every time you brake, you go a little bit slower. So his flow score this time was a 62, which is a big improvement versus a 68. So the way he did this was by modulating less. So before, his modulation score was a little bit worse than this, but he was much closer to 100 this time, which is much better for him. So his brake health was better, which means he had fewer brake checks, and his braking effectiveness was about as good. And that's because we had him sliding through a few turns. So he's still around about the same number of brake events, but he braked instead for 59 seconds, which was a huge change, and that's what helped him lower his flow score. So his brake energy wasn't that much lower, and his brake temperature didn't change a whole lot. But remember, that flow score changed a ton, and that's why he went faster. So you can see when we look at his key opportunities, he actually improved all of his key opportunities. In this first key opportunity, he was able to kind of break this event up into multiple brake events, and they were much smaller overall instead of a few really hard, really long, really modulated events. So this is much tidier. In the second key opportunity, he was able to split up the braking and then sneak through the log with much more confidence. So by drawing his attention to this section based on the key opportunities strategy, he was able to session it and know that this is exactly where he could make up the most time. And then, of course, his final key opportunity, which was those switchbacks, and we sessioned that looking for new lines through them. And it wasn't about just letting off the brakes and blasting through these turns. It was about riding really, really smooth, and that's what he did, and he was able to really tidy it up. So overall, what you can see is if we look at a real deep dive into his turn analysis, you can see actually he was braking a little bit through these turns, and that's okay, because that's actually the strategy that we used to get through this a little bit faster. It was definitely really tricky turns to ride without braking, so we didn't focus on not braking at all. We focused on riding through them smoother. All right, so there you have it. That's how we quickly used BrakeAce and the key opportunities and the flow score to improve Tyler's braking and make him go faster again and get the KOM on himself. So now he still holds the KOM. Everyone's trying to get that KOM from him, but he's riding better than ever, and we'll see what other KOMs he can get now. All right, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.